Those have anything to do with suke. They have everything to do with sarx. Okay, think about this. This is a paradox, because I don't care who you are. If, let's say I stop doing any work, let's say I stop feeding myself, will I die?
Yes.
God's not going to immediately feed me? Okay. If the birds of the air stop going between God's and the gay and stop eating, what's going to happen then? If I'm not worrying about life, I'm worrying about what? Suke. Suke. The mind, right? What am I not supposed to worry about? I'm not supposed to worry about the sarx, things of sarx. I'm supposed to worry about the things of the mind. Do you see this? It's a paradox. It's a paradoxical statement. It goes even further. It's closer. Jesus is not talking, he's talking about suke. So, what is the most important thing he's saying? What is he saying is the most important thing about human beings in the gay? The mind. Exactly. So, okay, listen to this very closely. If I am not worrying about, for example, where the food is coming from, but rather I'm worrying about mentally, in my mind, what? The work I'm doing, putting my mind on my Father in heaven, right? Then what will I be led to do? I'm doing the will of the Father because my mind tells me to do what is necessary for life, right? In other words, well, I can't say it quite like that, but he's saying to get off your lazy you-know-whats and go and do what you have to do. That your mind, it's not a question of just sitting, it's a question of doing, of thinking, you see?
So when he's saying that he's going to provide for us, he's saying he's doing that through the mind?
Through the mind. As a matter of fact, you know that because every single one of these statements exercises your mind. You can't read these statements without your mind going, what? You know, if I came up to you today and said, don't worry about lunch. Don't worry about what you're going to eat. Don't worry about that. You say you're nuts, right? Unless I told you something like, because I'm going to provide it. Or I said, I'll pay you. I'll pay you food. Or if you do this. Or I'll give you a loan. Do you see what my point is? The suke here, we want, this word is translated life. It's not life, it's suke. And when you translate it as suke, when you correctly see it as suke, it really changes the whole tenet of the statements that Christ is making. Because he's telling you to be most concerned about the mind and thoughts. And you know that because remember he told you, if you are looking at your neighbor's wife in an adulterous fashion where you're not supposed to be, that's a function of the mind. If you're enraging your brother, that's a function of the mind. All this is a function of mind. This is a transformation, I told you this before over and over again, is a transformation from Dirash Hebraic thinking, from pagan thinking, to Greek rational thinking. It's totally what this message is about. And this is like the shot across the bow. That's why this is so important. The final statement, here's your beautiful final statement. I don't think I put it in, I should have. Seek the kingdom of Oranos and Diakosune. Literally, but seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Here's my translation. This is a Greek, I think a very good Greek translation. Seek the kingdom of the kingdom of heaven and Diakosune. If your mind is occupied with these things, then you will be able to obtain the other. If your mind is occupied with these things, you will be able to obtain the other. We take this to mean that if you just have enough faith, everything will work out. That's health and welfare gospel, right? Does it work that way? No, it never works that way. That is not what it's saying at all. Jesus Christ is saying if you put your mind to these things, because, we do put our minds to these things. In the modern age, we do, because we are Greek rational thinkers. In the ancient world, what did they do?
They pray for it,
Well, yeah,
sacrifice and expect it to be given.
exactly. A pagan worldview is not a rational worldview. A rational worldview is, if I think these things and I work to approach them through mental thinking, then I can achieve them. In the ancient world, that wasn't true. In the ancient world, it was like, you know,
Throw the virgin in the volcano.
yeah, an irrational worldview. And you can take that to from that standpoint of, yeah, throw the virgin into the volcano, to the singular worldview of, if I placate the gods, if I placate God, what will I get? He's saying the opposite. You see? He's saying the opposite. It's not a question of placating Jehovah. It is a question of doing what? Focusing your mind on Jehovah. To us, this is a moot point. We think we do it all the time. Yeah.
Now, in a Greek worldview, with that being with logic, where does grace fall in this? Is it saying, well, if you get your mind right, then you can do all these things? But it doesn't say, and trust in God, the grace of God.
Well, remember, grace
You do
is
your
charis.
thing.
Charis. Charis is a greeting. And charis is what Mary already had. The angel said, charis, grace be to you. So you have it. But even more than that, I think it's not a question of grace. You're talking about, what about faith and belief? Faith is pistis, which means to be persuaded. And belief is to have been persuaded, pisteo. So, to be persuaded is a what? Is to accept a logos to telos, a mental argument. Yeah.
If we placate the gods, we're asking to withhold their wrath, the bad things from you.
Well, in the Greek worldview, yeah.
Or they receive blessing.
Well, Greek worldview is not so much, but they did. I mean, the Greeks did seek blessings, but mostly they were concerned about the wrath of the gods, because the gods were never positive. That's why euangelion, the good news from the gods, or from, the good news from the gods, euangelion, the gospel, is basically a good message, which is why they said it was good. But anyways, I'm just trying to show you that this isn't, well, I want to go even further. Let's see, did we already do the lilies? Okay, I got to do the lilies. I think I missed the lilies, but think about the lilies. Where are the lilies set in?
Fields.
Gay. The lilies are in gay, and they will be thrown into the fire, right? Now, what do lilies represent in Greek thought? You know, because that's what we do too. What do we send? What's that?
It says beautiful women.
Huh? No. Who do you send the lilies for? Come on, guys, death. Yeah, death. Lilies are a symbol of death.
Fleur de lis.
Got it? Do you get this? And they will be thrown into the fire. Do you want to be clothed like a lily? This is a paradox. All it takes is a little bit of Greek understanding, a little Greek culture, and all of a sudden, bang, you get it. Christ is not saying you want to be like the lilies of the fields. The lilies of the fields are attached to gay, and they will be burned up, and they are a symbol of death in Greek thought. They're a symbol of death. And, why don't English people get this? Because it's an English thought. We have the same imagery. I don't know.
Why did the French nobles wear the fleur de lis?
I don't know why they wear the fleur de lis.
The messengers of death?
The messenger of death. I didn't know that, but I could have guessed that, because I should have, from reading about D'Artagnan, those guys. Let's see, the rest of this we get, he who seeks, all right, I'll touch this. We got time. I can touch this a little bit. If you look in 8:7-8, it says, I think it's 7:8. We gotten to 7 yet? Yeah, 7:8. All right, I want to skip ahead. Skip ahead, brothers, because we don't have time. I want to finish this up. I've got to finish this up so that we can continue on in the next thing. Look at 7:24. 7:24. Therefore, everyone who hears these words, and by the word, everyone who hears this logos, this what? Logical argument of mine, and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his oikos, his home, on the Petra, on the rock. All right. Does anybody want to tell me what the house on the rock is?
Peter.
The temple! 10 points. The temple is the house on the rock. Where is, matter of fact, what is on the rock right now? The mosque on the rock. Okay? Because the Temple Mount is literally a rock. And the house is called, in Hebraic thought, the house on the rock. So, look what he says. What did he start talking about at the beginning? He talked about the law. Well, the logos, but it's the law, right? The law. And therefore he goes on, he says, this is the end of this whole discourse. 24. Therefore, everyone who hears this logos, this logical argument about the law, and puts them into practice is like the wise man who built his house on the rock. Who built the house on the rock? Solomon did, who, by the way, Solomon was not arrayed as well as the lilies of the fields. You can't, these are all tied in. These are perfectly tied in. So the house on the rock is the temple. The rain came down, the streams rose, the winds blew. What's that a reference to?
Flood.
The flood. Noah's flood. And it didn't fall because its foundation was on the rock. So he's telling you that what is, he's giving you some negatives about the temple. He gave you some Essene negatives about the temple. But what is his ending thought about the temple and in relation to the law? That it is the rock. It is what you have to stand to. And he alludes back to the flood. He goes on, he says, but everyone who hears these words of mine, the logos of mine, and does not put them into practice is like the foolish man who built his house on sand. Literally, amos, heaped up on the beach. Okay, whose house is heaped up on the beach? Any guess? You got two choices.
Castaway.
Well, I mean, literally in this period, whose houses are on the beach?
Fishermen.
No. Huh?
The Essenes?
Two people, two
Philistines.
famous. Yes.
Philistines.
Who? No. Well, one is a Gentile and one is kind of not a Gentile.
So Herod?
People. Herod, where's his house?
Right on the little waterway right there.
It's built on the Sea of Galilee. It's built on the sand. On Tiberias is right on the sand in an ex-cemetery, but it's on the beach. Literally, so you can go Sunday there, okay? Whose else's house is on the beach?
Gaza.
Well, the other guy's house on the beach is Pilate's. The procurator's house is on the beach because it's Caesarea Maritima. Okay? He's making a political attack. This is a political attack that no one could miss. Because he uses the word, he does not use the word for sand or beach. He uses the word for amos, literally heaped up on the beach. So he's talking, we're not certain, but we know he's talking about Pilate's house or Caesar's house, or Pilate's house or Herod's house. So it's a political cut. And the end is, the rain came down, the streams rose, the winds blew and beat against the house. So what is he doing? He is doing a precursor to what he considers the salvation point, which we will see much later. And it finished. It says at 28, when Jesus had finished saying these things, the crowds were amazed at his teaching, because he diakasto, he taught as one who had exosa, authority, and not as their grammateus, the scribes of the law, the teachers of the law. It refers both to the Pharisees and the Sadducees. So the big point of this is that is the end point. The law is the prime, and that rather he had authority. We'll talk more about that next